All right, here we go, chat. We are getting into this. All right, in July 21st, 2020, Video Game Entertainment and News Network, aka VENN, debuted a splashy new trailer complete with an original electropop theme song called Wildfire to promote its impending launch. Okay, so this was right at the early-ish stages of the pandemic. So we did talk about it on stream. Okay, can't find the VOD, but we did talk about it on stream. So I don't know, maybe you weren't there that day. Okay, I think I talked about it like a couple times on stream. Gaming is everything, says the narrator over the thump of the music. Why don't I just watch the trailer? Let's just watch the launch trailer so you guys know what VENN was, okay? What VENN was. Oof.
Gaming is everything. Our adventures, our stories, our wins, our losses, our passion, our community. And we're building a home to celebrate what we love the most. A 24/7 network for gaming and culture.
This arcade's got a little bit of everything, especially you guys at home in the chat.
We'll be diving deep into everything you love to play, watch, and listen to.
Streaming is our language.
You know all those questions that you're afraid to ask?
Because when it comes to life, things aren't just black and white.
I've got one hell of a challenge for you. LFG is everything you need to start your fitness journey.
What makes good content? Imagination. And an apple for flavor.
You can blend an apple? A whole apple? You can blend a pineapple? Really? You can put a whole pineapple in a blender?
Welcome to VENN.
You should technically cut up the apple first and remove the core, yeah. So, you'll see that it said August, well, it says August 5th, but they ended up launching in July, so they did end up moving their launch up. Oh, I thought more things were gonna happen. So that was been very impressive launch trailer, very flashy. Did recognize some of those names. Okay, I mean some of those faces. You had Sushi Dragon, you had Austin, you had there were some other people there that I already forgot. Definitely some recognizable faces. Rip $43 million. The fact that I didn't hear about this until after they closed down is something. Yeah. Oh yeah, so they had their glimpses of the network's young, diverse cast of influencer hosts, including Jimmy Wong, who appeared in 2020's Mulan, and Sasha Grey, a former adult film actress, interspersed with adults of stadiums filled with screaming esports fans. VENN, the high production value video makes clear, would be the 24/7 home for gaming, entertainment, and music content. The presentation fit with the grand ambitions of co-founders Ben Cousin and Ariel Horn, both of whom have had years of experience in the gaming industry. For 6 years, Horn served as the head of broadcast and esports content at Riot Games. After being embroiled for years over allegations of gender-based discrimination, Riot in December agreed to a $100 million settlement. Oof. I didn't even realize that. This was after nearly a decade of marketing production at NBC. Cousin is the son of Gary Cousin, a co-founder of Babbage's, the company that would become the dominant force in gaming retail, GameStop. Cousin worked in marketing at EA and Vivendi Games and started up several businesses with his brother Eric, including a poke restaurant chain in Texas and odor-eliminating clothing wipe company Reviver, which was featured on Shark Tank. We think streamers, casters, content creators, these are the new celebrities, Cousin told TechCrunch in September 2019. They would be right. When VENN was announced. What MTV TRL used to be back in the day, if that were to launch today, what would it look like? This culture would be seen through the lens of gaming. Those are the founders. I feel like VENN was either 7 years too late or 7 years too early. No, I don't think it's 7 years too early. I think that the concepts. Well, let's go through this and we'll talk more about it. But my take was that it just lacked enough perspective. I need to stop touching my ear. I just touched my ear. Oh, illegal. Eee! I can't touch my ear, and I did it. I feel like it was almost too production-y, which sounds weird to say. Like, can you have too much production? I think for streaming and connecting to gamers and doing something that's like relatable, I actually do feel like too much production can hurt. But anyways, among other things, I was kind of skeptical. So my ear is ruined. It felt over the top, yeah. I think gamers, like, they don't really want to watch something that's like, they want to be entertained, and they don't want to watch anything that's too like formal and too analytical. Like, they want to watch things that are just funny and just pure entertainment. They don't really care about like the analysis of the video game industry. So the plan was to cast a wide net with this content, and would ultimately live stream primarily on Twitch, with its shows also distributed on the Roku channel, Zumo, Distro, and others. From there, repackaged as content for other platforms such as YouTube. It's going to be everywhere. We're calling it a universal network. That means anywhere that consumers are consuming content. The author of the THR article would go on to work at VENN a month after its publication. Interesting. What's up, Techno? How you doing? Cousin and Horn were eager to get VENN off the ground, initially announcing its launch would move several months ahead to July 2020 to take advantage of people stuck inside due to the pandemic. At the time, there were also rumors of the potential return of G4, a TV network from the early aughts that produced similar programming, the previous MTV of video games. However, Horn and Cousin tell Input that news of G4's return did not affect the trajectory of VENN in any way. We always said if either or both of us succeed, it would be good for games in the industry. We'll see if they still feel that way. G4 eventually relaunched more than a year later, November 2021. VENN's July launch date was subsequently delayed till August. Wow, I cannot talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I touched my ear again. Dang it! I'm losing my mind, chat. Oh! I'm messing up. Okay. Initially, the company was going to begin with studios on each coast, one in Los Angeles and the other in New York, but the East Coast plans were put on hold due to COVID, and New York studio was ultimately scrapped. Horn tells Input that plans for the studio in New York were only in the preliminary stages and no construction had been conducted before the idea was nixed. I can't touch my ear because I just got them re-pierced, okay? VENN was an exciting proposition for many of the people hired to bring it into being. When I got the job, I thought to myself, this is the best day of my adult life, a former producer tells Input. That producer and the rest of the more than 100 employees who were hired likely didn't imagine that within months of VENN launching, nearly all of them would be out of a job, and that almost 1 year to the day of that flashy trailer's debut, the company would enlist an accounting firm to help look for an acquisition. Over the last year, Input has interviewed more than a dozen former employees, nearly all under the condition of anonymity for fear of affecting future career opportunities. Some sources were working at VENN at the time they were interviewed, but have all since been let go or left of their own volition. Throughout the conversations, one point is made again and again. Despite its attempt to be the future of games media, they claim VENN was the most mismanaged company that any of them had ever worked at. And here we go. It's a business, they say, that failed to understand its product and audience. That is very much something I said. I definitely said that. With leadership that created a brutal work environment for employees. As one former worker wrote in an anonymous feedback form the company issued after a round of layoffs in late 2020, VENN is extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. A hyperbolic evaluation invoking a judge's description of some of the murders committed by serial killer Ted Bundy. Oh, Jesus. Sources describe VENN as a business that was too slow to act on complaints against some of its most hostile employees and pushed staff into working overly long hours and taking on responsibilities outside the scope of their original roles. To describe VENN in one word, a nightmare. The disgruntled former staffer says, "The heads of the company, they have no business ever again running any kind of production. They're in way over their heads. I've never seen a bigger crap show. A boys' club culture. Top to bottom, a complete colossal failure." Aranor, I'm not gonna do it again. I won't. What's up, A-Greens? While these stories may read as upsettingly familiar, given issues plaguing decades-old gaming institutions such as the alleged harassment and discrimination at Activision Blizzard, VENN was a new venture that could have been something different, something better. In fact, multiple sources say that the promise of a truly diverse and inclusive environment for its employees was explicitly made to them when interviewing to work at the company. They would all be disappointed. VENN wasn't short on money, to begin with at least. VENN's co-CEOs Cousin and Horn raised $43 million across 2 rounds of funding and told staff soon after launch that the company had cash to last through the end of 2021. It also received two Paycheck Protection Program loans as part of the federal government's Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, totaling more than $2 million. Despite this influx of cash, the money was not seen by a good number of the employees. "I was making significantly less in this role than I would have in the same position at a different company, but I believed in VENN and I wanted to succeed," says one of the former women producers. During conversations with sources about compensation, a pattern emerges. Women who worked at VENN consistently say they felt they were underpaid. Multiple sources say that one of the only women executive producers at the company, Carol Patrick, was making less than one of the male producers. An employee in the know explains that Patrick's salary was based on the money that the company had to offer at the time of her hiring, which was before the launch, and that contracted positions potentially made more money because they did not include additional benefits such as healthcare. Several of the men input spoke to, however, feel like they were not only well compensated, but in some cases handsomely rewarded. "I was being paid more than I ever had for my position," says a former male staffer. Surprise, surprise. Employees frequently mention staff bloat, and screenshots input received of messages sent by Horn from early 2021 say that costs for running VENN were unsustainable. The impact of the quickly growing operations costs were corroborated publicly by Horn himself in a July 2021 interview with .esports. "I'm very critical of myself for spending as much as we did," said Horn, explaining how the company quickly succumbed to financial woes. Horn confirms to input that staffing costs were one of the biggest factors behind VENN's monetary issues. Another big expense was a 6,000 square foot production facility, a sixth of which was covered in LED walls that the company built at its rented space at Vista Studios. VENN had hired construction manager James Lee to design and build the studios. Lee, according to his LinkedIn page, is a former director of Gensler, an architectural firm that has done work for Sony, Time Warner, the NFL Network, and Riot Games, the last company being co-CEO Horn's previous employer. Lee's LinkedIn page lists him as the Senior Vice President of Real Estate and Facilities at VENN. This is the set. It is a really cool set, to be fair. It's pretty sick looking. I actually really like the brick. What's up, Dr. Pepper? According to a former employee who had access to salary sheets, Lee earned a significant 6-figure salary in the top 5 salaries at VENN until at least spring 2021. He has rarely attended a leadership meeting, that ex-employee says. Lee, according to Horn, has had an unbelievably illustrious career. There were lots of reasons why he was selected, and he continued to expand his role as needed, working with us on COVID protocols. He was pretty continuously busy. One of the few times employees did see Lee was when he would walk around the studio with a 6-foot stick to maintain proper social distancing. Oh my god. Majority of this company is built on, oh, I'm just going to hire my friend, which leaves room for a lot of bias, says the former employee with access to salary information. I think there was just never anyone there to question the ways in which things were being done because they were all inclined to agree with one another. Yeah, Cobalt. This is a really great analysis. What's up, Jabber? Indeed, a lot of the men in the high-ranking positions at VENN had overlapped at employers such as Activision Blizzard, Viacom, and Riot Games. The company Dreamlab Consulting, which VENN brought on to handle its human resources, was run by 2 former Riot employees, one of whom was an Acquaintance of Horns. And so I do want to point out that when we talk about women and diversity and why it's so hard for marginalized folks to break into the gaming space, it's not just, oh, well, they're not applying. It's situations just like this one where, you know, 2 white dudes basically hire all their friends and all their friends are all white dudes. So, you know, that's definitely a huge problem. Despite the fact that VENN spent a large portion of its money on its LA studio, less than 9 months after launch, employees learned it was shut down and production was being moved. To where? Nobody knew at first. One day we showed up for work and the company had moved without telling us. The studio was just gone, and for a while they wouldn't even tell us where they had moved to. Another source says that their first glimpse of the new office was when a video conference tour of the space was offered to interested employees during an all-hands meeting. What? How do you do that to your employees? Like, this is just wildly mismanaged. How do you do that to your employees? Hey, if you guys want to know where we work, you know, you can ask and we'll show you. Like, what? Oracle, enjoy the lurk. Thanks for being here. It is gone. Welcome back, Braden. The entire company, it turns out, oh yeah, we read that, right? Oh no, had relocated to Burbank to a much smaller production facility. Multiple sources agree that the company should have started in a smaller space to begin with. Horn says that he's puzzled over confusion regarding the move. I'm not sure why they were unaware. There was a discussion before we moved, and as far as I was aware, there were tours through the space. There was, at least from my perspective, a lot of communication on what we were going to do within the bounds of what we could talk about. Cousin echoes those sentiments. While VENN was burning through its funds, it was failing to gain an audience thanks in part to its passive marketing. Multiple sources say the company was relying in part on its influencer hosts and high production values to sell the content. Across the board, there was no viewership because there was no strategy. Says one former producer, the marketing was so bad. Industry contacts I had that were very established and I had been working with them for years told me, we have no interest in VENN, we have no idea what that is. I mean, so many of you guys have no idea what this is either. And I literally talk about the industry every day. But yeah, there was just not much to talk about, you know? Another former staff provides further context. They didn't understand their distribution from the start, which I called, by the way. I totally said this. I wish we had the video. Wait, do I have it on the YouTube gaming channel? Can Ahmad check to see? I could have swore we had a video about VENN. This is exactly what I was talking about. They could have saved $43 million and just talked to me. They didn't know where viewers were going to come from and how to build on the views that they did get. There was a lot of focus on short-term gain. Success doesn't come in the short term when you're talking about Twitch or YouTube, and that was always the focus. It betrayed a lack of media understanding, which I called it. Charlie Kryza was initially brought on as a creative consultant at VENN, but eventually oversee post-production. We were pretending that we were gonna be MTV, but we didn't realize the audience we wanted to talk to thought MTV was the stupidest thing ever created. The tensions were raised because we all felt we were failing as a company in general, and we all turned on each other. No one was aligned, and that is what ultimately led to VENN's downfall. Horn says that the problem was with VENN's marketing was twofold. The first issue was that companies were mostly interested in advertising on connected TV, meaning products that enable viewers to stream content such as Roku or Apple, and that this was not where viewers were actually engaging with VENN. This is definitely a failure on your part because there are tons of brands that sponsor through Twitch and streaming. Like there is a huge market for that, but you're just not reaching out to the right brands, or you're not doing a good job of selling your product. Bad excuse. The second problem he cites is in line with what Input heard from its former employees. The talent VENN hired was not able to bring in viewers over to his channels, a big assumption that the company's executives have made going into launch. Despite these issues, in the network's early weeks, VENN's programming somehow enjoyed live viewerships in the thousands. However, when looking at additional engagement metrics, the view count didn't make any sense to staff, leading them to suspect VENN had been paying for view bots. Oh God! I'm telling you, this article is long because there are so many problems to talk about. During one broadcast in the network's first couple of weeks, gaming insider Rod Breslau, known as Slasher, unexpectedly dropped into VENN's Twitch chat and made a joke about the number of real viewers. When management caught wind of this, there was a panic, and after an all-hands meeting, the viewership began to drop dramatically. Our views went from 20,000 a show to like 100 people overnight. Oof. Oof. Wow. Let's be honest, bringing on an accountant and expecting her accounting fans to watch her do something other than accounting was dumb AF. I know what you mean by accounting. Jared, we'll be talking about Jimmy Wong as well here. So I'll have to look up his tweets when we get to talking about him. That is a big difference. Especially like the second you're called out. In 2018, Kotaku spoke with streamers and found Twitch was possibly boosting views on users' streams. This potentially was being done by embedding those streams into pages on a site that Twitch owned, at the time Gamepedia. The embedded videos would autoplay and be muted, so a visitor to Gamepedia would likely not have been aware of it still. This is very Facebook-esque. Twitch no longer owns Gamepedia, but outlets have reported that there are still methods the company could be using to inflate viewership. A possible indicator of inorganic views is large spikes in view count happening all at once at a specific time. A former employee remembers in VENN's early days that its Twitch streams would have a couple of hundred viewers to start, and then the moment the clock struck the hour, the number would jump into the thousands. Now, to be fair, this could also be if they have front page time. And there's no mention of that. Or maybe here. Hold on, let's see. It says that all methods of boosting viewership were handled by Twitch directly. So maybe they were just on a front page slot, which is kind of can have the same effect, honestly. What I consider marketing is bringing potential audiences to awareness about something and then converting them into fans. Twitch has a number of different services that essentially do that. Breslau, someone who has known Horn personally for many years, was aware of the VENN project in the earliest days of its planning and says he made it clear to the co-CEO even then that it was doomed to fail. He pointed out that relying on high production values to sell content missed the mark of what drew viewers and subsequently money to services like Twitch. Boom, there you go. Is paying for front page time a thing? Yes. Definitely. Yes, a lot of brands do that. Absolutely. It costs, as far as I'm aware, I have heard that it costs 5 figures an hour. Which makes sense. Yeah, it's pretty pricey. Lowco only needs one wall of LEDs. I need to get more lights. I want my purple to be more purple. I need a 2.0, or I guess it would be a 3.0 of my setup. I want to get another shelf and because I have so many more things to hang up on the wall. So I want to get a horizontal shelf. Anyways. Culture of crunch. Issues at VENN also were clear to some of the staff before any programming ever went live. "We were trying to build the plane while it was already in the air," says one former employee who joined the summer before VENN's launch. That's like a scary analogy. Jesus. Another former staffer who worked on VENN's news show, The Download, says it was impossible to make what they were asking of us with the time and staff size that we had. As a result, a culture of crunch developed at the company, with many employees working more than 12-hour days during and after VENN's launch. It was a hell of a load, one former employee says. Some staffers were forced to take on an overwhelming amount of responsibilities. There were writers who were expected to host shows, assistants doing the same work as their senior counterparts, producers doubling as journalists. That's like a very startup vibe, I feel. Sources claim that when they saw a fellow employee bring up their workload to Kryza, an executive producer and de facto head of post-production, Kryza told them, well, if you want another job, you can go get one. Kryza confirmed as much when Input reached out to him. We were bound under this ethos of doing everything together so VENN could have a chance of success, he says. If that means you have to do more than just your job title, that is what has been required at every network I've been at. To make matters worse, all of this was occurring during a pandemic. Initially, there was a COVID compliance officer on site, and the staff felt relatively comfortable. Everyone was tested regularly, both with PCR tests and rapid antigen tests. That compliance officer eventually left the company at the end of the contract, and while another individual from VENN took over the officer's duties, some employees felt that safety checks started to slip. I was exposed to someone that tested positive, and I was never notified, and the person was talent, so they weren't wearing a mask or a face shield. When this employee raised concerns with management, the higher-ups simply inquired whether that employee had been exposed for more than 15 minutes and then failed to offer them a COVID test. Ugh. Horn claims that VENN was consistently in accordance with CDC guidelines. We never reduced our overall COVID compliance, he says, while confirming that VENN's initial external compliance officer left. We trained some of our staff with official compliance schooling, if you will, to fulfill those deputized roles. We never decreased our focus on testing or compliance. We followed the guidelines that were given to us. One staff member who had contracted COVID, Zeus Ader, was at the time the supervising producer for The Download. A week after testing positive, he tried to make his way into the studio despite not having taken a follow-up COVID test. Ader describes these allegations as inaccurate, but declined to comment further. To many, he personified all the issues at VENN. What's up, Greggle? But wait, there's more. This article is like basically all-encompassing of, but wait, there's more. There is a lot more. Former staff members claim that Ader often pushed them, as one of them puts it, beyond human limits, micromanaging both in the studio and over Slack. He's a nightmare to work with, says one former staffer who frequently works with Ader. People have told me they'd rather be unemployed than work with him. Another former employee who worked under Ader says, the way that Zeus treated a lot of people, a lot of the producers, especially early on, was unacceptable. The way that he would berate them was unacceptable. In an environment that wasn't as fast-paced and as high stakes as VENN, he would have been fired immediately. Gosh, Zeus. Why you gotta be so bossy? A number of allegations corroborated by numerous sources who worked for and around Ader were raised against the supervising producer. He deprioritized or took the women producers' names off of segment rundowns, a database of credits for each piece of content viewable to EPs and management, and replaced them with his own. One of the women producers was told in front of her coworkers not to speak in Zoom meetings and to mute her mic, allegedly owing to a personal distaste Ader had for her. Jesus. Yikes, dude. Oh my god, this is so bad. Numerous employees made complaints against Ader to higher-ups, but it was only when, towards the end of 2020, a staff member broke down in tears and confronted a vice president about Ader's behavior, that management was finally forced to do something about it. Ader was reprimanded for his rudeness over communications channels while running the live show, and he received a negative performance review that fall. Oh, jolly. He got a negative performance review. Wow. That's gonna really show him, man. That's how you really just stick it to him, you know? He's gonna learn his lesson. Getting a negative performance review. Wow. I mean, that's just so scary. Don't want that. Around the time VENN pivoted to short-form programming, management decided to split the download team into two, with Ader put in charge of a new show dedicated to esports. Multiple sources say that leadership was incredibly fond of Ader, frequently praising him for many accomplishments that he played little to no role in. This makes me so mad, because this guy, probably hired as being a friend, again, it just creates this whole culture where it makes it impossible for like marginalized folks to get into spaces because they hire their friends who suck and they just let them just be so problematic. He got a negative performance review and that did not affect anything. They love Zeus, said a former employee who worked under the supervising producer. All the while, VENN was shedding employees. We hired quickly and then we fired quickly. There were 2 major layoffs occurring within the first few months, with the first letting go a majority of the team on the network's flagship show, VENN Arcade Live, which was focused on gameplay. Drew Ohlmeyer, the son of renowned television executive Don Ohlmeyer, was the executive producer of VAL. Before the network was even on the air, early hires had warned management not to go near Ohlmeyer based on his reputation. Dude, like, again, just getting jobs because nepotism. Exactly. Nepotism. Before the network was even on the air, early hires had warned management not to go near Ohlmeyer based on his reputation. Once he joined the company, there were alleged immediate issues. He was described by a former employee as demanding and dismissive. I hacked Garen's PC. How did I do that? I didn't do it. I did not hack you. Thank you so much, Garen, for the 15 months, but I did not hack you, okay? Within a month or so of VENN's launch, Ohlmeyer was moved to another production, but he was laid off by the end of 2020. Horn tells Input that the only reason VENN cut Val was due to it performing poorly with focus groups when the company needed to rapidly cut costs. I had known Drew for a while. Oh, this was the Ohlmeyer. Yep. Okay, so I never had a chance to work with him. I did some background investigating before offering him the role. Warren says, when asked about being warned by employees not to hire Ohlmeyer, I got a variety of different feedback, both really positive and some yellow flags. I felt like we had done sufficient legwork there and had confronted him and let him know that this feedback existed. Oh my god, I just hate this so much. Horn, reminder, Horn is co-CEO. Co-founder, okay? Yellow flags. Yellow flags are not a thing, okay? They're called red flags for a reason. When Input probed further about issues with Ohlmeyer during his time at VENN, Horn says, we gave feedback to multiple teammates about what may have been the norm in most television production scenarios was not going to be acceptable for us at VENN. So yes, we had conversations like that with Drew and other teammates. In an email conversation with Input, Ohlmeyer counters that claim. Once in production, I don't recall any specific feedback from management on any issues relating to personnel concerns. If anyone has such concerns, they were never communicated to me. That's why the decision to cancel Val came as such a complete shock. There was no indication from above that Val had problems or was running out of time. That's why we were completely floored when the show was canceled. Is Lowco a good CEO? I think I am. I try my best. I try to have healthy boundaries. Ohlmeyer also vehemently disagrees with the negative characterizations of how he operated in the workplace. I am confident my management style created and maintained a healthy professional environment aimed at meeting the requirements of a very demanding production schedule. That's interesting phrasing right there. I made a conscious and sustained effort to check on my team members to ensure they felt comfortable and empowered to share their perspectives. I was the one who suggested reducing Val to 3 days per week from 5 and to a 1-hour format from 2 hours. At the time, I stated that such a workflow reduction would greatly improve the well-being of our team, which turned out to be the case. When Val was shut down, a few of its remaining staffers were absorbed by the download, which increased the workload and output of that team. The 1-hour show was increased to 90 minutes, and in order to get the new version of the download up and running, management went back on its promise of time off for employees. The download was not the only part of the company experiencing issues. It felt very much like I was in competition with my coworkers, says a former employee who worked in a different part of VENN. It felt like I was pitted against my colleagues to see who could create the better performing content. That was what bothered me the most about working at VENN. It was around that time that employees were told VENN would be pivoting to short form content for YouTube as the company's original business plan, which relied on distribution partners to showcase the channel's high quality content, was a huge cash drain. This news emerged during an all-hands meeting sometime before Thanksgiving. During the same meeting, which was led by a member of management, the question of layoffs was raised, and while the possibility was mentioned, employees were told more news would be coming after the break. Can you imagine? Like having like a break for Thanksgiving and worrying you're gonna lose your job the whole time? Can you imagine that? To hopefully gain some clarity, one employee reached out to another member of management and asked them what was going on. The member of management was caught off guard. I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" recalls the employee. "You're basically right below the CEOs of this company. How do you not know what's going on?" The staff went into Thanksgiving break with no additional information, and when they came back, management confirmed that layoffs of around half the staff and a pivot to short form would occur a month later to coincide with the end of year holiday break. This is cruel. This is extremely cruel. Yeah, WoW is right. WoW is right. Amid this shift, many employees' roles drastically changed, compounding their frustrations, and for several inputs spoke with, their jobs became less creative and far more mundane. They had just gone from launching a live television network to producing pre-recorded short videos for YouTube. Carol Patrick, the underpaid executive producer in charge of the download, was, for many employees' input spoke to, a champion of VENN who made things as bearable for the team as possible. But in mid-December 2020, medical issues Patrick has lived with for most of her life flared up to the point of sending her to the emergency room for the first time in 20 years. Upon hearing about the stress of her job, her cardiologist urged her to immediately take 2 weeks off from work. After being back at work for around 2 weeks at the start of 2021, new unrealistic daily deadlines pushed Patrick to resign. With no executive producer, a power vacuum formed, and one of the show's hosts, Jimmy Wong, saw an opportunity to lead the download. While some praised Wong's creative talents, many on the team felt that he would frequently overextend his reach. There was a morale kill that he'd bring to everything, says a former staff member. Wong gained fame on YouTube in the early 2010s, partially in thanks to his elder brother Freddie Wong. Freddie was the co-founder of the once popular YouTube channel Rocket Jump, which put out action-oriented short films that Jimmy Wong sometimes produced and starred in. Jimmy went on to play the character of Ling in Disney's live-action remake of Mulan and to voice one of the main characters in Sony Pictures Animation's film Wish Dragon. Wong was initially brought on as a creative consultant at VENN, but was moved into a hosting role when the plans for a New York studio were shut down and additional talent was required in LA. According to sources, Wong reached out to them over the weekend following Patrick's departure to let them know that he'd be taking over EP of the download, leaving the team bewildered that not only was a decision to replace Patrick made so quickly, but that it was coming directly from Wong himself. When the staff raised their concerns to Dustin DeAdato, the vice president overseeing the team, they were assured that there had been no conversations about making Wong EP and that he would be spoken to about his actions. Dude, the levels of mismanagement and like chaos and confusion right now, like there are just so many levels of Jesus. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, oh my god. What's up, Elf? However, by the end of the week, a solution was announced at an all-hands meeting. Instead of one executive producer, the download would be led by a committee, including a production EP and 2 creative EPs, one of which was Wong. They were throwing EP titles everywhere because they wanted to keep people around. As a source familiar with the management structure, I thought it was a joke. So many yellow flags, Frostbite. Reached by input, Wong disputes the characterization of how he came to power. I did inform people that I took on this role because it had been conveyed to me that the higher-ups, the C-suite, was on board. I was being open and transparent because I didn't want to overstep any boundaries. There was a gap there, and they said, we need someone to shoulder the burden. With frustrations growing among the staff, one employee took it upon herself in early 2021 to post an open letter to the company's Slack. The letter, a copy of which input has obtained, specifically addressed the false promises that many of the female employees at VENN felt they had been subject to in their short time working there. Here's a "but wait, there's more" moment here. The letter pointed out that while VENN had hired a diverse pool of on-screen talent, behind the camera it looked like any other company from a bygone era, overwhelmingly Euro-American ethnicities, overwhelmingly male. The letter went on to say that its author, during the hiring process, was asked to provide nerd credentials in one of her job interviews, a request that this employee said was not made of her male counterparts. My God. So freaking cringe, man. In addition, the letter delved into how the team behind The Download, the show that had among the largest number of women employees, was consistently given less support than the other groups, and it mentioned how many of the already small pool of women employees had left the company. I didn't experience any of what was brought up in that letter myself, but those that can personally speak to those extremely negative experiences, I believe them 100%. I saw that happening to them, says a former male employee. Input reached out to the author of the open letter, but she did not respond for comment. When asked about whether he had heard about the nerd credentials comments at the employee's hiring interview during the time, Horn says he had not, claiming further that he could not recollect ever hearing that. I can't recall. When Input pointed out the fact that this was a phrase that was used verbatim in the employee's letter, which Horn had been provided a copy of before it was posted to the company's Slack, he replies, I remember the letter for sure, but I haven't read it in many months. I haven't gone back and read it before talking to you. The letter was prefaced with a message from VENN's new diversity, equity, and inclusivity specialist hired through the third-party firm DreamLab Consulting, founded and run by 2 former Riot employees. We talked about this. Their friends, nepotism. Who was approached by the employee with it before it was posted to Slack. The forward outlined several goals the specialist hoped to achieve, such as standardizing the hiring process and diversifying the leadership team in order to eliminate bias at the company. The DEI specialist had initial conversations with team members to get a lay of the land and help facilitate complaints raised to human resources. One person's name was mentioned a few times, Jeff Jacobs. Just conveniently forgot. Originally a contractor, Jacobs was eventually brought on as executive vice president and general manager at VENN in October 2020. Every employee Input spoke to agrees that Jacob has an old school New York management way of speaking and would frequently drop offensive remarks around the office. According to multiple sources, he once said in regard to the leadership to employee ratio at VENN that there were too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Jesus. When reached for comment, Jacob responds, well, I don't recall an exact instance I used that phrase. It sounds like something I could have said. It's an antiquated phrase I no longer use as of the last 2 years. Jacobs was also the focus of an allegation of sexual harassment at the company. One employee who streamed to a personal Twitch reported to DreamLab that Jacob sent a message over Slack that he liked watching her late at night. God. That employee made an official complaint with DreamLab over the remark. Oh my God. It's so freaking creepy, man. God. Oh, it's so skeevy. Oh God. The worst, man. When asked about what actions were taken in light of the allegations against Jeff Jacobs, Horn says, I did a lot of coaching with Jeff and saw good growth from him. He was addressed when we received any feedback. Horn declined to confirm specific comments that Jacobs made while at VENN. So let me get this straight. One of the co-founders comes from Riot, hires what is essentially HR from two former Riot employees, okay? And then continues to hire other people that they know in their circle of friends. How is this HR company supposed to do anything to reprimand or change anything if they're all friends with each other? They're gonna be completely blind to any negative feedback. They're just gonna ignore it. Like, you just can't create change like that. This is really breaking down a problem with a lot of companies, especially in gaming. That's basically how the games industry works currently. Yep. Basher, thank you for the 72 months. Letting a staff member or talent know they did a good job and whether or not their performance was enjoyable to view while live gaming on our air was part of my role and responsibility in giving creative notes, compliments, critiques when necessary, says Jacobs regarding the alleged comment. Someone streaming on their own personal channel and you watching them, and like, that's totally not necessary at all. That's beyond unnecessary. I like watching you late at night. Nope, we don't do that. The biggest mistake I made with my job at a software company was trusting HR. Ugh. There was one instance in which a staff member mentioned something to HR. After meeting with them and my superiors and offering up the online conversation and them seeing similar comments made by me to multiple other staff members, all in the same professional manner, I was absolved of any wrongdoing. This is, again, Jacobs continuing to talk here. Around the time before this allegation was raised, a key member of Dreamlab, Casey Hicks, an acquaintance of Horn's, another acquaintance from Riot Games, and a founder of Dreamlabs itself, stepped down. According to sources, Hicks told others he was frustrated by the continuing issues at VENN and felt that the company's management kept insisting on using him as an intermediary between themselves and the new DEI specialists. Hicks stepped away from the company he co-founded, reportedly equating working with VENN to being in a toxic relationship with someone who you wish would change but is incapable of doing so. Horn denies that Hicks resigned from Dreamlab, saying he merely stepped away from working at VENN. A source in the know claims that Hicks completely left Dreamlab. God, this sounds like this is just like drama, man. This is drama. Like, this is Jesus. It's awful. With Hicks out, management's dismissive attitude towards its DEI specialists only worsened. The DEI specialists ultimately left, feeling that they too could not affect positive change at the company. The poor DEI specialist never had a chance. Yep. Never had a chance. When asked by Input about diversity, Horn explains that the speed at which members of management got VENN up and running impeded their ability to hire more diversely, so they brought on mostly people whom they had connections to already. Tell me that you're only friends with white men in any other way, okay? That's what you're saying. I'm only friends, I only talk to white men, I only know white men, I only befriend white men. I only care to get to know white men, and my worldview is totally well-rounded and on point. Like, this is the problem with companies, with especially in gaming. Right here. Like, are you serious? You literally hire someone you know to be HR, and they can't even do it because you don't listen to them because it's too much work to hire diverse people. Generally speaking, there's definitely a flow in the gaming industry in terms of the types of candidates getting roles, and to move in the other direction is kind of like walking against the current a little bit. Oh, God. I think we did a good job with our on-air talent. Equal parts male and female with diverse ethnic backgrounds. In leadership, our head of operations was a woman. Oh my God! Woo! Look at that. They know a white woman. Look at that. I don't know if they're white, but I know a woman. Wow, look, woman. Woman in power. We're good. We did our job. That's it. We need one woman to do something with leadership, and we can say we did diversity. This is like, oh, I'm not racist. I have a black friend. This is the vibes I'm getting. I can't be racist. I have a black friend. We have diversity. We have women that did leadership. Like, this is such a terrible, do you not, like, just yeet yourself. Just yeet yourself. What are you doing? Like, don't even talk at this point. It's so bad.
I really enjoy watching you late in the evening, because that's how late it is where I am right now.
Circuit 85, please. We have women. I mean, oh wow, it's so hard to hire diverse people. It's just easier to hire all my white men friends. So, like, yeah, too much work, man. God. You know, when I first saw this headline, I almost, like, before reading it, I almost said, you know, they could have saved $43 million and, like, worked with me, and I could have, like, given them so much better advice on how to market and, like, you know, really connect with Twitch viewers. And then I read this article and I was like, there is no saving this company. There was more problems than just the fact that VENN on the surface was just not a well hashed out product. I mean, this is deep rooted freaking issues with our whole society right here, okay? I mean, this is the crux of having a problematic company. Jeez, man. But wait, there's more, guys. But wait, there's more. Okay? In the lead up to mid-June 2021's Electronic Entertainment Expo E3, for which VENN was listed as an official partner, the company had rolling furloughs, letting go of almost all of the rest of its staff. This included Zeus Ater, who very quickly found a position at Riot Games. Oh, weird! Weird! I wonder who hired them. Despite having previously run the company's broadcast division, Horn claims that he had no hand in Ader getting a job at Riot. No, probably not. The people who hired him know me, he says, but I didn't recommend him. I only talked to him briefly after he got the role. I'm sure. A skeleton crew saw VENN through E3, with each employee forced to take a pay cut of anywhere from 15 to 35% on top of being given additional responsibilities previously handled by their now gone colleagues. That's true, Cirque 85. That is true. Would not even be considered to help them because I am woman. VENN is now looking for a buyer with all remaining employees, according to Horn, focused entirely on strategically marketing assets. Horn wished to finalize an acquisition by September of last year, but so far no such deal has been made. Horn declines to reveal to input the companies VENN is in talks with regarding an acquisition, but says the process has continued to go on and we're having good discussions. Who's gonna want to buy this after this mess? What is this linked to, by the way? .esports article. More work for less pay. That sounds like a great model. VENN might have issues finding new investors at the moment given G4's November 2021 relaunch. Meanwhile, some are dubious about G4's odds. I feel like G4 is in the same boat as VENN, says industry insider Breslau, aka Slasher. They have the added advantage of being owned by Comcast and those resources, but the whole premise of what these two do is pretty much the same. It is a blip compared to top streamers. Even though G4 has a lot more going for it than VENN, he continues, it is going to run into the exact same problems. I do not see a future for them. VENN is essentially non-existent online. It hasn't updated any of its social media pages since August, nor has it posted content to any of its YouTube channels since last summer. In fact, if you try to access VENN's website, you get an error message saying that it is an inactive domain. How do you let your domain lapse? I mean, of all the things to let go, like, I mean, what is their website? VENN.tv? I mean, jeez. Unless VENN finds a buyer that wishes to spin production back up, all this is unlikely to change. VENN was meant to usher in a new era of games media. Instead, the foundations allegedly were similar to those of the old one. Sexism, manipulation, mismanagement. In other words, the same allegations and accusations that have plagued company after company after company after company. This is an opportunity that is born from chaos, Cousin told Hollywood Reporter about VENN's rush launch to capitalize on the pandemic. VENN was not only born from chaos, but its short life was defined and ended by it too. It's just in a different article. Yeah, okay. So, man, I mean, there's a lot to go over, you know, obviously. Like, I mean, what can we say at this point? These are the co-founders, by the way, in case you forgot. In case you weren't sure what they might look like. These are the co-founders. So, poorly run company goes out of business. Yeah. I was a bit distracted. Can you quickly go over it again? This was a really good, I feel like this was really well put together. Maybe a little all over the place here and there, but definitely a lot of good info. Nice book. Yeah, thanks. I'm a little worried for G4. I don't know how G4 does. Does anybody actually watch G4? I think that okay, first of all, I have so many thoughts, but no one cares about the intersection of video games and music and TV and movies. Like, it's too broad. It's too broad. Focus on one thing, okay? Just focus on video games. Like, to say what is it, video entertainment network, like, no one cares about all these things combined. It's just not compelling enough. Like, so that's number one. I would say focus on one thing and be really good at that one thing, okay? So if you want to do video games, do video games. You can bring in elements of, like, maybe talk about music in a small segment here and there, but to, like, create giant production shows that like branch from music to movies to music, it's just too much. It's just, no one cares about that stuff. So that's number one. Number two, they did tap into some creators. Like, Austin was probably their best pickup in my opinion. They also had Sushi Dragon, but for the most part, I feel like they hired, I mean, a former adult film actress. I mean, I don't know anything about her, but like, that's like, who is that for? She's on Twitch? She streams on Twitch? What is her, what's her handle? Is it just Sasha Gray? Why am I in all caps right here? She's kind of successful on Twitch. Okay, she does average like 2,400 viewers. I didn't even know that. What does she do? Elden Ring? She's been doing Elden Ring? Wow, she gets like 3,000 viewers. She streams pretty often. So that's not terrible, I guess, but like, I feel like they got a lot of people that were like more like hosts and not like authentic streamers. And I feel like also when they did pull authentic streamers, like, again, I think production, it was almost a fault. It was too production-y. Like, what was Austin's show that he did? He did like a Price is Right type thing, didn't he? She's a DJ. Sasha Gray is a DJ. There's a lot of things then, dang. There's a variety of things, and that's awesome. But I feel like what you should do more is lean into collaborative content with some of the top streamers. Who's been doing more? Twitch, actually. I think Twitch and Amazon have been doing where they have like a bunch of streamers from LA and they do like some sort of game show or something. I don't remember what it's called, but I think that's like the best, where you basically tap into the top streamers and have them just come on here and there and do stuff that's like more in their wheelhouse and more natural for them. I think I feel like having a little bit of scuffiness is almost expected. Like it makes the stream feel more personalized. I think if like a stream is overproduced, it can kind of be it can kind of backfire. So I think like what I would say to this is like basically tap into more of the like bigger streamers and you don't need to go all out in production. That's really not required. You don't need to branch out into all forms of media. Like hone in. Again, it's like the same thing as like in general marketing advice for creators. Is like hone in on something so that you can target your audience better, because it's just it's just too broad, not appealing. Like, yeah, I mean, do people really care about MTV? No one wants an MTV, a modern day MTV. I mean, unless you have like, I don't know, trash reality, maybe. There's just a lot of problems. I mean, obviously the deep-rooted misogyny and nepotism and all of these other things, like, of course, those are terrible too, so. MTV isn't even music television anymore. MTV is not even MTV anymore, you know? Like, even they got over that, you know? I'm gonna run to the restroom, chat. Give me like 30 seconds. Okay, I had to fill up my water too, so it took longer than 30 seconds. I'm sorry. No more hair dye. Yeah, I'm going brown. As soon as you take content that people can find on demand somewhere else and try to schedule it, you're doomed. Okay, so that's another aspect. The 24/7 thing, like, I feel like that was really overly ambitious and, again, totally not necessary. Like, yeah, I've had visions of doing something like VENN, but obviously not to that level because I don't have $43 million. But I mean, I've had visions to do something like that. And even with Streamer Square, I mean, we ran like 6 live streams a week, which was a huge endeavor. And I mean, in comparison, not that costly, you know, but it was definitely like a money sink because we didn't monetize it very well. So I feel like we could have, but it was just, again, one of those things that was like too much. I don't know. It can be hard to get people to, I mean, here's the thing too. People, like, growing a brand channel is very difficult. Like, people, like, Booker, what are you doing? He's trying to tuck himself in. Such a goofball. What's up, Dan? How's it going? He did it. I mean, he had that. He did not need my help, but I feel like I could pull 100 views with only 14 million. Well, okay, so let's look at VENN's Twitter. So how do you market, right? You use social media platforms. So VENN had 37K followers on Twitter. But even their tweets would get like 10 likes. So honestly, I don't feel like those followers are accurate, because they would tweet and get like 7 likes. "17 likes, 8 likes. I mean, I get more likes on this, and I have, 10,000 less followers than they do. I mean, this is kind of a sign. This is a stinky sign. But also, I'm looking at their tweets, and I'm scrolling, and I'm scrolling, and I'm scrolling, and I'm not seeing any content from their shows. I'm back in June 15th, 2021. I mean, when did they stop making any content? Like, I'm still scrolling. I'm in June. Like, they do not promote their own content. I see this thing that brands do where they just like go on Reddit and pull clips that are popular, and then they're like, yeah, look at this clip. Like, no one gives a crap, okay? So they just gave up social media. Let's see. Did they post on TikTok? VENN. Watch VENN. Let's see. 200,000 followers. Their last clip, I'll show you guys here. Their last clip was posted.
Damn.
2020, August of 2021. So they're getting, yeah, they definitely have some videos popping off here. I'm gonna guess none of this is their actual content though. So they had something good here. I mean, people do prefer short form content. So again, I think that's another problem, is when you're trying to do like a 24/7 like live streaming and stuff. Like, it's just so not invasive, but just like consuming. Like, it's so much work. I'm not thinking of the right word, but celebrate after you carry a dub. Like, okay, so they're doing just like react content. So walking to my sofa to watch E3, like, okay, I don't even understand TikTok. Why did that get 1.3 million views? So they were, I think they were doing decent on VENN, but the thing is like, I often see so many like brands try to get into this space, and they spend way too much money. They spend way too much money. They don't have like enough consolidation and structure, and they just, again, they overproduce and just overspend like massively. Like, the content, I bet you the cost of the content that they were putting out was totally never ever worth what they were probably paying to put it all together. Like, I love overspending. It's a lot of upkeep for 24/7 anything, yeah. I don't know. And it's like, I feel like it's better to start with a very simple focus, and like if you can do one thing really good, then you're more likely to get people interested in other things that you do, rather than starting everything at once and having no real focus, direction. It's just like very much, you know. They do a spaghetti method where they just find a bunch of stuff, throw it, and see what works. Yeah, unfortunately that method cost them $43 million. So I don't know if that's really the best method. I mean, I think that method has validity in some cases, but it doesn't seem like it was very good in the way that they did that. It was very costly the way they did that. So that is a lot of spaghetti. Like, do you know how much spaghetti costs? Like, that is a lot.